Hello, everyone, and thank you for tuning in to another episode of About My Father's Business Thursday, where I like to highlight Christian businesses, business owners about their services and products. Today, I have a special guest with me that I'm really excited to introduce you guys to. Rob and I did a show before, but before I get into that, I want to remind you to please like, share, and follow me on social media. I am on Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. I post a lot of inspirational stuff, specials that I have on my own services, my coaching services, special deals for my books and things like that. And just to stay updated on what's going on in outside the box. And so make sure you do that. And then, of course, share my content with anybody you think it might be helpful for, because the purpose of what I'm doing is to inspire people in their spiritual walk. But they won't get that inspiration if they don't know that I'm here. So please help me out and share my page and my content. So today, who I have is Rob Lohman, and he is a interventionist. We did a show last year about addiction, and if you guys have been following me for any period of time, you know that I like to do topics that are kind of outside of the norm when it comes to Christianity. I find a lot of the times, and even in my own Christian experience, you get this idea that Christians are supposed to be perfect. We have this cookie cutter idea of what it means to be a Christian, but that doesn't help any of us when it comes to the struggles that we actually have to go through every day. And we need people to be honest about what they're dealing with, what they're going through, so that God can use that to help us navigate outside of our own issues. And so Rob and I did a show about addiction last year. And he talked about his own struggles with addiction and what he is doing now, since then. And so before we go into his newest book, which is what we're talking about today, his book was released last week and it is about addiction. But before we get into that, I just want to let you introduce yourself, Rob, and let people know a little bit about who you are.
Hey, thank you so much for having me back on, everybody. It's a great day today to be alive, right?
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
I love the fact about your show. It's like highlighting people that have a passion for Jesus, right? And it's Christian businesses and leading the charge to move people forward. And we got to step into that. So kudos to you for all you do and inspiring people with your content. I think it's great. And but yeah, my name is Rob Lohman, and I'm the founder of Lifted from the Rut, because that's what life's about, right? Bringing people out of their ruts and getting them on the right
Absolutely.
track.
Absolutely.
And I want to say this because some people tap in and they think addiction, and their brain starts going like, oh yeah, I struggle, my family members struggle. So I'm just going to throw a website out real quick that if you're struggling and you just want to talk about stuff down the road, just go to recoverwithrob.com, and I'll be glad to just talk to you and see what I can do to help get you in the right direction, because I didn't have those resources when I was struggling with my addiction, right? I was just doing my thing and out there drinking, drugging, driving, drunk driving, just living beyond wait, not even in connection with the values I was raised as a Christian boy, right? And those were the things that along the way I knew this Christian faith, but I didn't want to live it because the Bible beater approach didn't seem appealing to me. I was having fun. So I just got
Mm-hmm.
lost in the mix when I started drinking and drugging and gambling and all the other ings that I was doing. And it was a dark, scary road for way too long. That's for sure.
Yeah. And then you talk a little bit about your story in the interview that we did before. So if you all want to know a little bit more about Rob's story, you can definitely go back and check that out. And and I like it because it's honest. And I mentioned that before. You really tell the truth about what you were going through in the midst of being a Christian, because a lot of the times people talk about how they came to Christ and then everything was peachy and now they live this great life. It doesn't work that way. So you can become a Christian and still struggle with a
Mm.
lot of things. And it's actually God that help you go through a process with God, and he helps you overcome those things. And I talked last year about how I struggled with depression for like 10 years after becoming a Christian. And so I really like that you reveal that side of it, that it's just not all perfect and great once you become a Christian, that there's still a process that you have to go through. And you really do a good job of like explaining what that looks like. So and
Yeah.
again, thank you for sharing your own story, because I know there are a lot of people that need that. So now let's talk about your book. You have a new book that came out last week. Can you just talk about it a little bit and let people know what it's about?
Yeah, totally excited about that. And just real quick, on your ticker down below is going across the screen. It's
Mm-hmm.
recover with Rob. So get rid of the Y.
Recover with Rob. Yes,
Recover with
I will
Rob.com.
fix that. Yeah, go
But
ahead.
I hadn't told you about that before, so how would you know, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, well, I mean, it's interesting having entered the addiction field in general. I mean, I was 15 years clean and sober or 15 years in my own addiction when I found sobriety after an attempted suicide. And that was a hard journey itself, because as a Christian person, right, it's not this moral issue like, well, just stop drinking.
Yeah.
It's not that easy, right? So
Yeah.
but along the way, my own journey, like I said, you can go listen to the other interview, and it was just a journey of recovery and staying in my past in a lot of ways, because I didn't break free from my old struggles and my sin patterns, and I wasn't using substances, but I was still not trying to learn how to live life on life's terms. And so over time, I had a mental breakdown year 11 of recovery, went to prison for a little while, came out of prison, really knowing who I was, figuring out who I was in Christ. And that is really what led me on this pathway to become an interventionist and a coach. So over the last 6 years, I've just seen I've learned a lot about interventions. I've learned a lot about family dynamics, the importance of having not only the loved one get help, but the family get help. And so I spent the last year and a half interviewing interventionists on what their methods are, what's their strategies, how do they help families to, one, better myself, but also to help educate other new interventionists on how to do them well, how to educate families on how do I help my loved one through the process of an intervention, and then also helping professionals understand what the heck's an intervention as a therapist and how do I really help a family go forward. And so the Addiction Intervention book is a collaborative effort of 10 other interventionists I interviewed. And in their stories, they share their passion for helping people, their strategies. And so it's a really cool way. I mean, this is here's what the book looks like. Like I said, it's the Addiction Intervention book. It's on Amazon, and you can also go to addictioninterventionbook.com and buy a copy there if you want a signed copy from myself. Kind of a cool way to do it. But, these are the interventionists I interviewed on the back cover. I want to honor them and highlight them. And it's just about the strategies. So now families can read it and go, oh my gosh, there are different ways that I can help my family member break free. But also, I have to do the work. I got to do the work. And so one of the cool things about the book is that I decided I want to give back. So 25% of all the net profits from the book will go to help people with sober living scholarships and counseling needs that cannot afford those needs. And so definitely want to give back, and have QR codes all over the book that people can scan and actually go watch, like you do video stuff, right? They can go watch the interviews I did with the interventionists.
Oh, okay. Wow. That's cool.
Yeah. So you get to know the personalities kind of behind the strategies, the stories. And then one of the other cool features is there's a QR code in the back of the book, because I have a list of treatment centers that wanted to be a part of the book that are good, reputable companies and have great programs. And so there's a treatment resource appendix in the back of the book, and then also online that people can go check out to find the most up-to-date resources available, because resources change. But so making an interactive book, but it's all to help people break free from that struggle of addiction and just break the cycle in the family, especially from a Christian perspective, right? Believing in transforming your life. So I share my own testimony in there, talk about Jesus, talk about God, talk about healing and transformation. And then I walk people through what is it like to go through a lifted from the rut intervention process.
Yeah. Wow. So, I mean, again, I always say this, but I guess it's become my trademark. There are so many things that stood out to me in what you were saying. And one of the things is that a lot of this is learned behavior. And so I think, like you were saying, how you were clean and sober for a very long time, and then you went back. And then you have people who struggle for a very long time, even to get to that clean and sober stage. But it's about a learned behavior, because I really like talking about the mind. I've always been very interested in the mind. And so it's like your brain gets wired to respond to things in a specific way. And then so a lot of times when people drink and have addiction, it's triggered by something that now their answer to that thing is that drug or whatever it is. Because we even talked about in the last interview that addiction doesn't necessarily have to be a substance. You can be addicted to all types of things, but it becomes a learned behavior and pattern in your brain. And it takes for you to confront that thing. It takes for you, the Bible talks about You need to expose what's going on, and what is done in the dark comes to the light, things like that. And you can't just keep following that pattern. If you don't do anything to disrupt that, you will keep doing it. You
Yeah.
keep doing it. And so we have to confront those things. And to me, that is like really powerful to me about an intervention, how it's basically a confrontation for you to address what this learned behavior pattern, what you're doing. And so it's a very, very powerful thing, especially when it comes from people that you love. I used to watch that show Intervention all the time, so I have some experience with it. But I was always fascinated to see how just, some people, when you have them confront, they run. Like, they're so angry, they don't want to listen. And you would think, why would you respond that way just to people telling you, hey, you need to change? It's because that thing is so deeply rooted in who you have become. It has become a learned behavior pattern, how you see yourself, your identity. Like you said, it goes back to childhood things. Like, it's a very, very serious thing. And something as simple as a confrontation has the power to put you on a different course in your life. So, yeah.
Yeah, and one of the things too, like a lot, that's how a lot of people know, and that's how a lot of interventionists got in the field, because they saw the show, right? And they go, I want to do that.
Yeah.
I want to help people. And here's the one thing I want to let people know too, that when you approach an intervention from a loving perspective,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Not from a, you suck, you screwed up our family, all that kind of stuff. So, hey, okay, we all got here together. Okay, we've all done things along the way. Now we want to do things different, and there's a better life for you. Like, hey,
Yeah,
I love you so
absolutely.
much. Like, we love you so much. We're all here because we love you. And yeah, there's things that need to change, but we need to change too. So when you look at it from a whole family system approach,
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
it's a loving, it's here's the way I define what an intervention is. The beauty of it is we're trying to bring the bottom up to your loved one. Like, here you
Mm,
go. We're giving it to you on a platter. We're giving you a gift. We want to help you not hit bottom. Today can be your
yeah,
bottom. And
yeah,
so if you accept this gift of help, then your life can change in a great way, and we'll support you in your recovery, but we're done supporting you in your addiction. And here's what that
yeah.
looks like. So we talk about healthy boundaries, and because kind of the process of lifted interventions is, first we're going to listen with love. We got to hear from our heart what's really going on from all the family members, and kind of really figure out and take an inventory of what's the core issue here.
Exactly.
And when you get to interview each individual family member, you learn stuff that other family members don't know,
Yeah.
and,
Wow.
and horrible things. I mean, you learn about sometimes rapes that happened from the dad that no one's talking about, but some sibling is willing to talk about them. Like, okay, that's important to know, because that's going to help figure out which type of treatment program is going to be appropriate for your loved one.
Hmm.
And so the more you
Wow.
can kind of throw out the dark secrets in a way, really helps the process, because once we know the core issues, then we can step in. Okay, we need to come up with a transformational plan. And 40% of my clients are not Christians,
Yeah.
but they know I am, and they know from where I operate. So when we get to bring in prayer and worship, and I can text you like a Michael W. Smith song, or
Hmm.
I can text you a link to like Zach Williams or just some amazing artists, and just say, hey, I
Hmm.
was thinking about you today. And it's so many times that song is what they needed to hear. And so we incorporate a lot of that, and then we literally just educate on addiction, and not the Christian moral failure of addiction. It's like, hey,
Exactly. Exactly.
so it's a
Yeah.
lot of education, and in the end of it, the family comes out knowing a lot of new information that they can now apply.
Hmm.
And whether their loved one gets help or not, the family can change. And when the family changes, then the loved one at some point might come back and say, okay, fine, I'm ready to get help. And then we
Yeah.
jump into action, because not everyone goes. And if you run into an interventionist that says 100% of people I've interviewed or intervened on, everyone went to treatment on that day,
They lied.
I got to tell you, that's not my story. I don't have that success rate.
Right. Right.
But if the family applies the things they're going to learn, eventually, it could be a day later, a week later, a month later, their loved one will come back and say, okay, I'm ready for help, because the family learned healthy boundaries.
Yeah, and I like that because it goes to the idea of, like, again, in the Bible, planting a seed. And so I think a lot of times, just as human beings, we are always in a rush. We want to get stuff now. We want to be healed now. We want our success now. But the sowing and reaping principle in the Bible, which is all throughout nature, all type of seeds, they have to be planted, they have to be nurtured, they have to grow. And so you can look at it from what you're saying. You can look at the invention as planting a seed, and you just continue to water it, like you said, with love, time, patience, things like that. And then the person can come back later. I think that's really important to just a principle in life in general. Sometimes you just have to give stuff time. Sometimes people need time to come to terms. And when you plant that seed, God can use that to kind of talk to the person in there a long time, or reach out to them when nobody else is around, when they are in a better place to kind of actually pay attention or listen to what was said. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I love it when I show up to the intervention. And again, that's like all the methodologies and things we talk about in the book, right? Is there's different ways to help a loved one, but I love it when I walk in and, because here's the way I look at an intervention is just a disruption of what's going on currently.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
And sometimes families will call and they're in the crisis, right? And it's crisis. And there's a lot of people that will take advantage of that crisis. Right. But in my mind, I'm like, okay, let's slow it down a notch. Whoa, let's bring it down. Let's talk about what has really happened over the last couple of years. Maybe it's gotten bad, or a couple of decades. And I've helped people get a treatment over a cup of coffee. It's like, hey, ask your husband or wife if they want to have coffee. And it's just getting real. It's like, man, I've been through the crap. I've been there. I've been suicidal. I've dealt with the negative thoughts and wanting to jump off a bridge in a building. And I mean, I tell a story once. Sometimes I was in Vegas once in my addiction, and gambling was one of my other addictions. Was right. That's a beautiful statement. And I remember I was in Vegas once, and I was just like, man, I turned $100 into like $10,000. It was crazy, right? I had all this money,
wow.
And then I lost it all plus some, and I was in my hotel room. And it's sad, but it's funny. I mean, it's sad in the moment.
Looking back,
yeah, looking back. But I grabbed the chair from the little office desk in my room, and I grabbed it. And I was on. I mean, I don't know. I don't remember what floor it is. I'm just going to say the 12th floor, just because I need to probably have a specific number. But I was on the 12th floor, and I grabbed the chair, and I literally just ran as fast as I could and tried to jump through the window with the chair. Like, that's how just desperate I was.
Yeah.
I was so exhausted, but the chair and I bounced back off the window, and I'm laying on the floor with the chair on top of me, and I'm just laughing my butt off because I'm like, man, you idiot. You literally almost went through a window.
Right.
But in our moments of desperation, that seems like a really great idea at the time.
Exactly.
And I'm grateful that in my car wrecks or jumping out of, off of things, and that I didn't die because I wanted to die. And now that I know who I am in Christ and I live from that, that's the message I want people to hear from me, whether they're coming from a Christian approach or not. We have to figure out what's going to define us, or something else will. And we can't let our addiction define us, because it's going to kill us. And unfortunately, I've seen too many people die from this that could have changed the course of direction, but their pride got in the way and their addiction got in the way.
Yeah. Wow. Life, boy. Like, so like, even what you were saying before about, just having those conversations where you kind of unearth some skeletons. Like, I mean, that's just, it's really, and again, I know you said a lot of your clients are not Christian, but a lot of these principles are in the Bible. The Bible talks about the importance of, protecting your heart and guarding your heart, because out of it comes the issues of life and things like that. And so we develop all these bad habits and these bad thinking, this bad way of thinking, and these bad coping skills. And they usually all stem from an experience or traumatic experiences that we had before. But as long as you keep it hidden and you don't deal with it, it can control you. But once you bring it to the light, and once you talk about it, once you're honest about it, once you confront it, that is the steps towards, and that's the same thing with like repentance. Like, as long as you keep acting like you're not doing anything wrong, you're perfect in the way you are, you'll just continue that way. But God wants you to come to the open with it and admit, and I don't have it all together, and I do need a savior, and I do need help. So when you bring stuff into the open like that, that's when God can work with it. He can't work with it if it just stays in the background. So Yeah.
Woo! Preach it, sister. I love it. Yeah.
Yeah. So can you talk a little bit about what? Let me mention this really quickly. I like how you have so many people that you interviewed in your book because I'm a really big fan of getting as much information as you can from different sources and then going from there because especially in today's age where you have like all this fake news and this political turmoil and things like that, so many times people are just focused on getting all their information from one place, but it's important that you go and look at different things and then come to a conclusion on your own. So I really like that you have interviewed different people to give their different experiences and their different techniques and things like that when it comes to their own methods, because that only knowledge is always empowering, and so the more knowledge you have the better. So can you speak a little bit to your decision to interview so many people and have them contribute to the book?
Yeah, most definitely. And that was the exciting part, that I didn't really know where it was going when I first started interviewing people. I was doing it because I thought I wanted to write a book, but I was doing an online challenge, and then it was just, oh man, this is such good information. Have to get it out to people, right?
Yeah, yeah,
And then not knowing how to get it out to people because I've written another book back in 2005, but I didn't understand kind of like all the marketing, right, and all the great ways to reach people. And now I do, and I
yeah,
consider
yeah,
myself like even becoming an expert in that because I do a lot of different coaching. It's not just around addiction; it's just life coaching. Work with people for years at a time and beautiful stuff. But in the book, I mean, you read through it and you're like, man, this guy's story, like, Keith Bradley was a interventionist that he kind of held my hand in the beginning of when I got started. Right. So
mm,
I appreciate Keith. I owe him a lot. And so I'm grateful to have him in the book. Right. But we have collectively about 280 years of intervention experience in the book, about 300 and something years of sobriety in the book, right, of
oh
recovery
wow,
tips and tools. So we talk about all that in here of the journey we went through. I mean, there's a lot of prison stories in here too about the other guys in the book, and some that never went to prison, and like Scott Graham was a former LA cop, right,
oh
and then
wow.
he went to prison, and it's like cop in prison, that kind of sucks, and it's like crazy,
Right.
but he gets
Right.
out of
Oh
it.
my goodness.
He gets out of it in life and changes his life around, and people that come up with these cool different methods to do interventions and help families, but you learn over time, and that's the beautiful thing is you can take little bits and pieces, proven methods, proven practices that work, and then you add your own little flavor. Like I'm one of the very few completely outspoken Christian interventionists in the country,
Okay. Wow.
because some people don't share that because they don't want to lose people.
Mm,
See, I want to
mm,
attract people because of that. And that's
mm,
why when people call me and say, "Hey, Rob, we know you're a Christian. It's on your website. Like, that's great, but we don't care about that. We just
mm.
want your help." And I said, "Hey, that's
Yeah.
cool." And if the timing's right, like, you'll appreciate this. I'll say things like, "Hey, don't worry about it. I'm not going to bring the Bible or worship music to the intervention, but Jesus is coming with me."
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
opens the door for other conversations. So
Yeah.
um,
Absolutely.
I hesitated about really being bold about my faith because I didn't want to lose people.
Yeah.
But God said, go be bold because you'll attract the right people that I want you to help, which are people that are Christians, aren't Christians. And for people that are turned off, I get to ask the question, well, is there something along your journey that caused you to be repelled by Christianity or God? Because if there is, I
Exactly.
want to hear about it, because that is not the God I serve.
Exactly. Oh
And
my
that's the cool
goodness.
thing about just, so there's a lot of that in the book, but it's people, each interventionist has their own chapter in the book, right? And there's just a lot of tools in here that says, hey, if you want help, reach out now. Like, just go to this website and ask for help now, and let's see what we can do to help you, instead of waiting until your loved one hits bottom. And here's a cool thing. So the foreword of my book is written by Al and Lisa Robertson
Mm.
of A&E's Duck Dynasty and Duck Commander. They have
Oh
several books
wow.
out. Yeah, it's cool. And because I interviewed them on my Identity in Jesus Christ Summit, and just sent Lisa a text, said, hey, would you and Al consider writing the foreword to my book? They're like, heck
Wow.
yeah, let's do it. So you never know who you're going to meet along the way that
Mm.
you want to stay connected with, because they're great people, and all the interventionists in the book are great people. And we just took our wisdom through kind of God's guidance, say, go write this book, Rob. and some people will resonate with Karen or Judith or
Exactly.
Louise or
Exactly.
Scott or
Mm.
Tim, and they may not resonate with me.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're in this together to help people, and
Exactly.
I'm adding interventionists to my team right now and recovery coaches, so I'm growing and bringing more people on to help families and creating more structure. So it's really propelled me to be better at what I do, and I want to help other people be better, but primarily it's to help families understand the need to use a professional to get the best outcome they can to help their loved ones
Okay.
so they don't have to go do this again down the road.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Wow. So this when you talk about what was in my mind again, when you were talking about when you said people have repulsed by Christianity, and then you talked before about doing this out of love, and that's really the essence of everything that God has done for us is out of love, and so often we 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 minimize love and we just reduce it to a feeling, but it's actually it's a power, and if you use it the right way, you can really transform people, you can transform hearts, you can transform minds, you can transform lives, and that is what God offers to us. Like he's not Jesus Christ came so that the punishment can be put to the side. Let me just love you, let me just show you how much I love you. And when you understand the love of Christ, we all were created to be loved. It draws you in. And so when you have a group of family around you, even if you know that you feel like some people have hurt you and they're part of the reason why you probably have an addiction in the first place, because we all know that kind of comes from family stuff, but they approach you in love. And then you have Christians, who are not judging people and condemning everybody to hell because they have their own issues, but you're showing the love of God. Like that is very alluring to people, and it's difficult for us to kind of resist genuine love. So I would say then the Christian aspect as well as the intervention aspect, that love is a very crucial part to any type of transformation, in my opinion. So
Yeah. Well, I was sitting in a church service and I was like, okay, God, because I'm a big acronym kind of guy. I love
mm-hmm,
acronyms. Like, okay, God, what is lifted from the rut? Like, what are
mm,
lifted interventions? Like, download this to me, will you? And literally just started coming. And it was cool because the L in lifted is listen with love.
okay,
It's like, we got to
wow,
start there. And it was just how it kind of all unfolded. And I unpacked that in the book too of what it is. But just listening with love is so important because people with addictions are being told what to do all the time.
mm,
You need to do this. You need to do this. And then the loved ones the addicts saying to the family, well, you need to do this and you need to do this. And when you just sit back and just like listen and say, hey, look, no judgment, nothing. Just tell me what's up.
yeah,
I'm just going to
yeah,
listen to you. And so many
yeah,
times at the end of the first call, they go, well, thank you for just listening.
yeah,
I
wow,
called other people and they were asking questions like, okay, and I'll bleed, it kind of like bring the questions in, but it's giving someone a chance to just talk non-judgmentally and say, I'm here to listen. Can I share with you what I just heard?
yeah,
Okay, now what do we want to do about it?
yeah,
And
exactly,
we start there. So that's the cool thing. And so to be able to articulate that to people in written form is what I'm excited about, to kind of get it out to the world. And and originally I called the book originally The Art of Intervention.
okay,
That was a summit that I did, and like, what's the art of intervention? And I'm going through this kind of like you and I talking about kind of programs, right? Of learning the skills. I'm like, it's addiction intervention. So it's the addiction intervention book. Bam, there you
yeah,
go. And
yeah, make it simple,
straightforward. Here's what we're
yeah,
talking about. You know,
yeah,
A's at the beginning of the alphabet. So when it's listed, it'll be addiction intervention book and smart stuff like that. So
yeah,
but again, big part of it is we walk families through a 6-week family coaching program after the intervention completed.
okay,
Day of the intervention. So the families get 6 weeks to 3 months of coaching, and weekly with their assigned recovery family coach. And so they're going to get the knowledge, the wisdom, the education to know, how's it going? What are we doing? Okay, well, last week we talked about it, starting this tool. If we're not applying the tools, well, how can you expect things to change? So
yeah,
it's about holding the mirror in front of the family and the loved one and saying, hey, everyone played a role in this.
exactly,
If you want to go forward together, things have got to change. And if you're not willing
Exactly.
to apply the changes, then like, what's the point of doing intervention?
Yeah, and the great motivator for that change is love. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So another thing that you talked about when we were talking about, we kind of got a little bit off of what I was originally saying, but very, very important stuff. But about the all the different people you interview, and I like that because it kind of goes with my outside the boxes because I want people to understand that God is still there with you, even through the midst of the most even when you do wrong, he's still there. He's ready to help you. He's ready to guide you. He still loves you. And I like that you give these different examples with different the stories of the interventionists so that people can have something to relate to. Because, like you said, they may not resonate with you. They may not have had addiction in conjunction with a gambling addiction or, whatever. But when you have those different stories, you give people the sense of like, I'm not alone in this. If this person overcame it, I can overcome it. You connect with them. And so I really like that you do that because a lot of times that's what we need to kind of motivate us to actually be hopeful that we can overcome the problems that we have. So I think that's great as well. So can you possibly, and I know we're kind of running out of time here, but I'm interested in maybe sharing some of the stories or maybe one of the stories about one of the people you interviewed?
Yeah. Yeah. And one thing, just to let you know, too, is I challenge the readers with questions throughout the book to focus on their own journey. Right. And just that part, which was really kind of fun. But yeah, it was like the one I was talking about earlier about Scott Graham. I mean, I love the fact that he was a former LA cop. Right. And
Yeah.
it's kind of like, watching what was the old TV show with the motorcycle cop, and they were out in LA and it was
I don't know.
Ponch. Do you know that one or no?
No,
Anyway,
it doesn't
yeah,
sound familiar.
all right, whatever. But but
Yeah.
but think about this. You're a law enforcement officer that gets thrown in prison and has to be protected because if you go into general population, you're
They're
toast. Like
gonna
you're gonna
chew
get
you
shanked, you're
alive.
gonna get but all that junk he went through, right? And now he and his wife do interventions helping people, right? And the story blows your mind. You're like, holy cow, how does this guy do what he does? Right.
Exactly.
And so I mean, I
Exactly.
love the power of that, of just really seeing, like you said, transformation. Scott's a believer like myself, and I love that part about him. And but to align with people like that, and now you get to hear, because people again they say, "Well, how do you know me? How can you
Yeah.
understand when you show up to an intervention?" He can ramble his stuff off, right? And
Yeah.
I can say, "Look, man, I got 21 years sobriety. I almost died from attempted suicide. I went to prison because of a mental health struggle. Like I spent
Yeah.
time bars. I know this stuff,
Yeah.
and you're heading down that pathway, bro. And I'm here to help. So if you
Yeah.
want help, let's talk. If you don't, you can keep going the way you're going, but you're going to end up somewhere, and it's either locked up, covered up, or sobered up. What do you want?"
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Wow. And so it's like, because I think anytime we struggle with stuff like that, and again, we talked about in our last interview that addiction doesn't necessarily have to be a substance. And I'm pretty sure there are people that can read your book that is not necessarily struggling with an addiction themselves, addiction to a substance, and they can still get a lot out of your book because
Yeah.
it's still an inspirational story about overcoming serious challenges. And a lot of times when we're in these challenges, we have this sense that we're alone and we're the only person in the world going through this. And so to hear stories about people struggling with the same things, worse things, and overcoming them, I mean, it's just really inspirational and hopeful. And it's what we need as human beings to kind of help us, get energized enough to do the work. So I think that that's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. And we do talk about other addictions like gambling, sex, porn. But and
Okay.
it's not like the real big focus of it because when you step into, I'm sure there'll be a second book coming out at some point. But when you step into things like sex, porn, eating disorders, gambling addictions, I mean, it's a different animal. But Bob
Yeah.
Reed
Yeah.
does a lot of eating disorder interventions. He talks about that in the book, and I
Okay.
don't.
Great.
That's not
Mhm.
my specialty, right? But
Okay.
that's why I'm bringing on other interventionists where we will have someone that specializes in eating disorders, right? We'll
Okay.
have these
Wow. That's
different,
great.
yeah, different specialties. So, but yeah, when you read Bob Reed's story in there, he talks a lot about food addictions and eating disorders, and it's a different type of intervention, but it's the same, but it's different. You know what I mean?
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
because there's
Wow.
common threads between all of these, But when you can find someone that has a specialty to that need, that's awesome, because that's what it's
Yeah.
about, right?
Yeah. It's always better.
And that's why we're a team. I'm aligning with all these people around the country because that's my network of people. That's my network of professionals. And I'll tell you this: if I'm not the right fit, I'm not going to take business from you.
Mm.
I'm going to say, hey, you know what? Here's one, like, boom, right on. You're going to connect with this person like that. And sometimes a male is not the right fit for the intervention. You need a
Mm.
female, which is why I'm bringing on a female partner interventionist on the team, right? And so
Wow.
so that's why it's trying to find the right person that can make the biggest impact. And again, you'll talk to some people and they'll say, "Oh, I can do any kind of intervention, any kind of whatever. I'm that good." I'm like, "Man, you're just arrogant."
Yeah.
Like, I mean,
Yeah.
that's reality. Is just there's different nuances, and so I'm more kind of realistic and say, "Hey, I want the individual to buy into it, and this is an investment into their future.
Mm.
They're not. No
Mm.
one's being forced to go to treatment ever.
Mm.
They're given options, and they get to choose the best option for them.
Yeah, for themselves. Yeah.
And in the
Yeah.
end, they can look back and say, okay, you did give me option A and B, which are better than C that I chose, right? But that
Mm.
was their choice. And
Yeah.
so when they walk away from this, anyone, it's like you had choices, you chose C or D. That was your choice. I was forced to do that. No, you
Yeah.
weren't. So
Yeah.
I mean, I love helping families. It's what we do. And again, different nuances, but that's why I wrote the book too, is to explain to people different ways to help people. So,
Yeah. I love it. I love it. I'm all for renewing the soul and the mind. I mean, life can be so difficult, so burdensome, so traumatic. And it really blurs our vision from like not only God, which is, we're talking from a Christian perspective, but the core of it is it blurs of our identity. Like we don't understand who we are in the mass of everything that is going on. And so I'm all for like helping people to realize those things and live from a place of purpose and fulfillment. And I mean, there's really no other place to live from. Everything else is miserable.
yeah,
So
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. And things they're not always what they seem. It's kind of like when I drink my green coffee mug,
Hmm.
it just kind of messes with the screen a little bit, right? But it's still a
Yeah.
green coffee mug, right?
Yeah.
But
That
one of those,
that looks really cool because it's
isn't it?
like, yeah.
Yeah, it's good stuff that way. But just having, like, again, we gotta have some fun in life,
Yeah.
and addiction's a hard topic to talk about. But when you can bring understanding and stuff around it, and give people freedom to like, okay, I'm ready for some help. Okay, fine. I'm tired, sick and tired of this. And
Yeah.
I've had
Yeah.
people go to treatment just saying, "All right, I gotta ask you one question." Like at the beginning of the intervention, okay, because the family's convinced they're not going to go to treatment. I'll say, let me just ask you one question, and then we'll start from there. Okay, what is it?
Mm.
Fine. Aren't you just sick and tired of being sick and tired of the roller coaster ride
Look,
you're on?
I say amen to that.
Yeah. And they
So
say
yeah.
yes. I'm like, all right, well, let's get the hell out of here and go get some help.
Exactly. Oh
And
my goodness.
and and it's being also able to. I want to give people this. If I know we're wrapping up, but
Yeah.
if you're just calling phone numbers and saying, hey, I got a loved one, they need help, and you're just calling treatment centers, hey, feel free to do that. But I'll tell you this: most treatment centers will just take you anyway, whether you're the right fit or not.
Okay.
So why not use somebody that can help you find the right treatment center that's going to get you the best help possible, and being able to know the right questions to ask. I mean, there's Christian programs, but are they really Christian or are they faith-based?
Yeah.
They talk about
Yeah.
Jesus in the Bible, or are they just like, oh, we're Christian? Well, yeah, there's a lot of people that are Christians that aren't Christians. So it's
Exactly.
because, again, you're in a situation that's a crisis and you don't want to be taken advantage of. So use a professional like myself and people in the book to say, hey, I want the right help, and I'm
Yeah.
going to get you to the right place. And that's what this is all about, is getting you the right help. So again, you don't have to do this thing again.
Mm.
But again, that's the fun thing of just like putting it all in the book. I mean,
Yeah.
why not? Right. So yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Knowledge is power. So I agree with that. And like what you're saying about all the help that is in the book coming from different areas, the Bible talks about how the harvest is plenty, but the workers are few. So we need there's never an overabundance of workers. We need more workers. So, because,
Hey,
yeah.
it's funny you said that, because towards the back of the book, there's actually a page in the book where people can apply to become an interventionist and join our team.
Okay, wow, that's amazing. I'm just loving your book more and more as you're talking about it. Wow, that's great. So we need to wrap up here because, of course, we can go into all different types of stuff with this conversation. I'm really grateful that you reached out to come on and talk about your book. I know I'm happy to be a tool to help people to get some resources and information that they need to transform their lives. We all need it, Christian or not. We all need it. And so, thank you for reaching out, talking about your book. If anybody watching this, if you're interested in reaching out to Rob and getting some more information about his programs, and I believe you do have a free 30-minute conversation. Can you talk a little bit about that really quickly?
Yeah. If they literally just go to recoverwithrob.com, it's a way you can just throw in your name and email address and then schedule just a 30-minute call with me. And if we need to go longer, we'll go longer, right? It's just kind of an intro. Say, hey, this is free. Just call, no obligation. And then if we decide we want to work together, I'll talk to you about what that's all about. But just go into recoverwithrob.com is the simplest way to connect with me. And then you schedule a time that works with your calendar and mine.
Yeah.
And just here to help and guide people. And hopefully, if I'm the right fit, we'll do some good work together.
Amen. And so the links for that will be above this post. So you all, please make sure you reach out. Please make sure you purchase Rob's book, which is also the link for that should be above this post. And so thank you so much for tuning in to another segment of About My Father's Business Thursdays. If you want to talk about your own Christian business on my segment, please visit my website at unveilingthespirit.com and you'll find some more information about how to sign up for that. Other than that, thank you so much. Thank you again, Rob, for coming back. And you guys be blessed and have a good day. Bye.